Hello, welcome back to Ace Reviews. Today we are reviewing Fantastic Four First Steps. Well, truth be told, I've already seen the movie twice. So if you're wondering if it's good, it is. It's shockingly good. Is it tremendous? If you kept in those 15 minutes, you probably would have had a classic. But that being said, this was a really good, solid movie. This was a love letter to the Jack Kirby era of comic books. This was Marvel saying, let's stop with all this grounded, realistic, modern reinvention of characters. Let's just give them what they want. Let's just put these characters as they are in the comics on screen. And that is what you get in Fantastic Four First Steps. It needs those 15 extra minutes. I cannot stress this enough. It needed those 15 extra minutes. I think if you had really put those in, you would have sent this movie over the moon and back home again. But because you didn't, you're just that close to greatness. It's really good, but in terms of what's going to be the more iconic superhero movie this year, Superman, 100%. So, now that I've blabbered, let's get into why this movie was good. First off, the characters. Excuse me. They did such a good job with these characters. This felt more like a phase one Marvel movie where maybe it's a little simpler, it's a little quicker, it's just more to the point. But it's because these characters were the focus, getting the four right on screen, getting Galactus right, getting Silver Surfer right. And they did. They did. I cannot stress enough that they got these characters right. Vanessa Kirby is the standout. As Sue Storm, you could not have casted anyone better. She's perfect in it. And how Sue Storm is as a person before motherhood and during. And you really get to see this emotional arc with her. You get to see this emotional arc with the family. And you really get the sense that they go through and deal with these things together. And that there is a sense of wanting to stay as a family and dealing with it. And there's not this, what we're kind of used to as superhero brooding, where I have to deal with everything myself and everything's my problem. Does Reed do that a little bit? Oh, yeah. But overall, the four are finally fantastic. So, yes, I said Vanessa Kirby's great. Ebon Moss-Backrack as the Thing. Really solid. Rock solid, if you might say. I can't say there was anything he really did that was the super standout moment, only because I feel like why he took a smidge of a backseat character wise is the other two versions of Fantastic Four heavily focus on him and his adjustment to being the Thing. Where this movie, they have been the Fantastic Four for 4 years already. This is not an origin movie. If you're expecting a Fantastic Four origin film, this is not. They are already established heroes, and this is about them during that period. Very similar to Superman, where Superman's already been Superman for 3 years by the time the film starts. This just gives you a little brief intro and throws you right into the action. Now, Pedro Pascal, I owe you a bit of an apology. I did not think you were going to do well as Reed Richards. I thought I was going to sit there and see too much of you. Not because you're a bad actor, you're a great actor, but when actors start appearing everywhere, it seems like every time you turn around, they're in another movie, they're in another project, you start to lose the ability to see their performance. Because since they're everywhere, you just see the actor. However, he nailed the emotional depth of this character. He nailed the scientific mind that is Reed Richards. This is not a Reed Richards that is carefree, that is just off on his own. This is a Reed Richards that thinks about everything. He thinks about everything that can go right, everything that can go wrong. How can he keep his family safe? How can he keep the world safe? And yes, he does take that burden on a little too much. I mean, they mention throughout the movie that he blames himself for the four being the four. He doesn't view really, I think, their powers as powers, but more like side effects of a mission gone wrong. Despite the four telling him, hey, you need to let that shit go, my guy. We're fine. It isn't your fault. But he's that kind of person where I should be smart enough to know everything and see everything. A lot of it is almost like Tony Stark without the massive ego. But he plays it really well. But I will say, out of all the four, you'd probably see Mr. Fantastic's powers the least. And I think that is a character choice. I think the idea is that even 4 years into this, he does not have the same relationship with his powers as the other three. He's not really embraced it. He's not really accepting of it. So I think he chooses to use his powers less, if not at all, because he'd rather use his mind, which I think is why we see here, that he's the only one without any white adorning the top of the suit. Does this maybe just mean he's the leader of the four and that's a distinction? Maybe. In my opinion, it's to signify the fact that, unlike the other three, he does not carry the same appreciation for his abilities that the others have, including Ben and Johnny, who seem very comfortable and just themselves, even with their newfound powers. You don't get this thing out of the thing being like, oh, I'm just a rock monster. You have kids who are excited to see him. Um, Joseph Quinn, my buddy, I liked you as Human Torch. You did a good job. However, I cannot shake the feeling that you were cast out of fan popularity because of Stranger Things. Not that you don't deserve to be there. I honestly think with future movies and stuff, Joseph's Human Torch is going to get better. However, I just think it's because maybe they're still trying to maybe figure out his role. I'm not sure. I think he did a good job. I just get a little bit of a vibe that he's there out of popularity. But however, all four of them together work tremendously. The chemistry between all four of them is wonderful. The feeling of a relationship, of a marriage, of a deep love between Reed and Sue is palpable. The fact that Thing and Johnny are best friends is palpable. It's there. You feel it. Even in this wonderful, big, retro future 60 style universe 828, as opposed to the MCU's 19999. Moving on to the villains. Galactus might be the best thing about this movie, which is a really big sigh of relief considering how Galactus was treated in the 2007 Rise of the Silver Surfer film, where, if you're like me, you really didn't like the fact that it was just this massive angry space hurricane. It was like someone blew a fucking smoked and blew a cloud into space and it decided to start eating planets. So I loved it. I loved Ralph Ineson as Galactus. You get this sense of his enormity, his scale of power, his ancientness, and the fact that this is not something or someone you can kill. This is someone you can only delay. You get the sense that he is part of the universe as much as anything else. You get the hint that he may be older than this universe, and what that implies we'll see in the future. If you're worried about him being a one-off villain, he is not. If you're worrying about being a CGI fucking mess, it's not. They filmed Ralph Nevson in a full-on practical suit with makeup. They filmed him on a stage with all these cameras and everything, and then they just blew him up to make him big. You want more of him. Galactus is probably the one character that you just want more scenes of. If you see this film in IMAX, you're in for the treat. Galactus is amazing in IMAX. Silver Surfer Shala Ball, I will say, really solid. I did kind of expect to just be like a basic Silver Surfer character, but she's female. However, you do get the sense of emotional depth and history out of her. The fact that she has spent time, however long, not sure, decades, centuries, who knows, being the herald of Galactus, you do get the sense that she is not as apathetic to what she's done to other people, other planets, as some comics might have you believe that they feel it's all justified, doesn't matter. You get the sense that what she's done does bother her a smidge. But like Galactus, she is not a one off character, and we will definitely see them again. I wanted a bit more of Mole Man. Paul Walter Hauser as Mole Man comes in and really just plays this character fun. He really feels like a 60s comic book villain without being overly campy. You just kind of want to get a little more out of him. But once again, I think there was more of him in the 15 deleted minutes of the movie, which also include John Malkovich. So I feel like, if we could get some sort of director's cut where you stick in John Malkovich again and maybe a couple of things, that'd be great. I understand if there was a few minutes there that maybe led to something else or was a story change that you opted not to do, those can stay out. But to get John Malkovich and cut him out entirely just feels wrong. It just feels wrong. So That being said, the overall movie is really solid. It's a wonderful sci-fi superhero action film. It feels bright and hopeful, and you get the sense of family and working together and the idea of our planet working to be more than what it is. You do not get this kind of feeling in superhero movies anymore over the last, let's say, 10, 15, 10, 13 years. There has been a trend in films where superhero movies are more grounded, more serious, more realistic, and the comics aren't meant to be an inspiration that you're meant to kind of twist a bit to make fit into a more modern, realistic world. Most notably with the Nolan trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, Man of Steel, the 2015 Fantastic reboot, which wasn't very good, but shared that darker, grittier, realistic tone, as well as movies like X-Men Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and so forth. So to see this and it sharing a similar affinity to Superman, where Superman said, "We're gonna shake off all this dark shit off Superman and put him back in the sky in the big, beautiful blue way that he's supposed to be." Fantastic Four is the same thing. They put the Fantastic Four back how they're supposed to be. Everything about this is how it's supposed to be. Whether the plot need a little more time, whether it's a little straightforward, that's one thing. However, the field comic book movies get back to being hopeful and bright and being an inspiration rather than just kind of like the world shit, but wouldn't it be cool if you had powers. So, overall, yeah. Were there any big surprise cameos? Not really. Just the aesthetic and the tone and the pacing of the film was really, really fun. I had a good time with it. Like I said, the Thing, you get some great moments with him. Everyone has good moments with their powers. That's another thing to notice too is everyone gets to show off their powers a bit. They do a very good job making sure everyone gets a little bit of time. And the movie doesn't feel overcrowded, even with the inclusion of Franklin Richards, who, if you know who that is, you understand the enormity of that character. If you don't, and you just see a baby, go to the movie, you might get an idea as to why Franklin Richards is so concerning. But I liked this movie. I just liked how it just felt like a comic book again. It felt like Fantastic Four. Um, and I would like to see a sequel. I would love to see where they go with this. I'd love to see what happens next. I'm interested to see how they're going to come into play in Doomsday. I'm interested to see how they're going to interact off these other characters like the Avengers, like the Thunderbolts, like the X-Men. I'm super excited to see because they come from this other universe where they you kind of get the idea that they're only heroes in their universe. There isn't a Spider-Man, there isn't a Punisher, there isn't the Avengers. None of that does exist in the universe. There's just the Fantastic Four. So for them, maybe so to walk into a universe where it is more densely populated with heroes and villains, that's going to be an interesting thing to see them do. Now, just like the last Ace reviews on Superman, I'm going to give you a few seconds here because I will now be going into spoilers. So, if you do not want this film spoiled for you, click away now. You still there? Cool. Let's get into it. All right. So, what's the biggest spoiler of Fantastic Four First Steps? And that would be, as usual with Marvel movies, the after scene. And what does this after scene give us? Giving you one more chance. If you don't want to know, if you want to see it for yourself, I'm giving you one more chance. You still there? You got? I'm giving you. Alrighty. What does the after scene reveal? Our first look at Victor Von Doom. Sort of. You do not see a face. We only see a back of a green hood and a hand holding a Doctor Doom mask. It is not a modified Iron Man mask, as I have feared that Doctor Doom was going to be rewritten as some sort of evil Tony Stark variant, which, if that's the case, it's going to suck. Doctor Doom needs to be Doctor Doom. I understand Robert Downey Jr. is playing him, and let me tell you, that 100% has to do with box office. That's 100%. They need to get hit. They need to get people in the seats. So bringing back Iron Man as the villain, cool. However, we really get the sense that this will be Doctor Doom. This will be Victor Von Doom. From just the pure green hood, you see the mask and the music playing being credited as Doom. As well as in the movie, there's a couple shots and references to Latveria, which, if you're not familiar, Latveria is a country Doom founded and he is the ruler of. Is it a tyrannical military state? No, not really. Latveria is actually a country where, in most comics, people are rather happy to live. However, Doctor Doom gives up to his usual shit, but that's usually across the world. But him having his own country, similar to Wilson Fisk becoming mayor in Daredevil, he becomes much harder to touch because you can't just march in and beat him up without inadvertently declaring war. So, do we know if this Doctor Doom scene at the end is the Doctor Doom of Earth 828? We don't know. There's almost nothing else given, just the back of Green Hood mask. That's it. We don't know if this is a multiverse traveling Doctor Doom. We don't know if this is a Doctor Doom looking to travel the multiverse. We don't know if this is a Doctor Doom that has a relationship with the Four already, or if he's just a completely separate thing. We don't know. It is odd that next year we're getting Doomsday without any other real introduction to this character, which makes me wonder if... I'm sorry about these yawns. My brain's going too fast. I'm yawning to slow myself down. I feel like the Doomsday is going to be a very Doom centric movie, just given the fact that they have to make up a lot of lost time for no setup. So, other things about the film. Galactus wanting Franklin Richards to stop his hunger. Franklin Richards is an Omega level mutant. This motherfucker, this baby, is going to be more powerful than Scarlet Witch mixed with all the Infinity Stones with a dash of Doctor Strange and Sentry. This baby is essentially a cosmic god. And it was really cool to see like Human Torch and Chalabal bounce off each other. I love the flirty relationship. I like the fact that they didn't kill off Galactus, that they just sent him away to the far side of the universe to be seen one day again. That Silver Surfer starts to show that she's kind of a good person towards the end. It is interesting because in the after scene of Thunderbolts, we do see a rocket coming to Earth with the Four on it. However, in this movie, we do not see any notion of um, there being set up towards Doomsday besides the little Doctor Doom tease at the end. Oh yeah, real quick, Herbie the robot. What a fun character. Let's get some more Herbie in there. But that's probably the biggest part of the movie. Otherwise, the movie is very self-contained with not a lot of things leading towards other stuff. You just get the Fantastic Four finding Galactus, and now they're going to set things. So that's more refreshing, and that's what shares with Superman, where it's not trying to set up a bajillion other projects. Uh, Overall, I think that's going to be it. I give this probably a very solid 7.88 out of 10. Like I said, give us an extended cut. I start to refer to it as the clobberin cut. Give us that. Otherwise, I'm super excited to see what happens with the Fantastic Four in the future. Super excited for Doomsday. This was the first time in a while where I wasn't just excited for a Marvel movie. I'm excited for what comes next. If you guys like this video, if you like Ace Reviews, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. Go follow me on Twitch, man. We're doing all sorts of shit over there. Let's do some more and let me know what movie you want me to review next. There's tons of stuff coming out. I might do a Naked Gun review. We'll see. Otherwise, Fantastic Four First Steps is a wonderful first step in the right direction for Marvel. Fantastic Four are exactly who they need to be. They're exactly what they need to be. The villain is perfect. Galactus is galactic. And that after scene is something we're seeing in theaters. Until next time, people. Peace.